Episode 7.
7.
The husband episode.
So it seemed like our first episode, being a good teammate. If you haven't heard it, go take a listen.
Yeah, you're going to have to listen to the first episode to listen to this one.
Yeah. It seemed like we ruffled a few feathers.
Absolutely.
Caused a lot of controversy. People seem to be split down the middle.
I think the reason why it was we had so much like different type of feedback is because we were giving a lot about a man's perspective, but not getting the men's perspective. Does that make sense?
I guess they felt like we were speaking for them.
Yes.
People felt like we were speaking for our husbands.
And let me just say before we kind of dive deeper into this, because I think it should be mentioned, we posted on our Instagram stories a sticker about how do you guys split the household chores?
Yeah.
And let me just say, I was actually very, I guess, disappointed.
Yeah.
In what we were hearing. A lot of the responses were that no, but I wish we did, or no with the crying face.
And you know what's crazy about that is in the first episode we had mentioned about like do what works for you. You don't necessarily have to agree with us, and that's totally cool, but you got to do what makes you feel respected.
Yeah.
And it was crazy amount of women saying they wish their husbands would help them more.
And it kind of made me sad because at the end of the episode, we did mention as long as you feel respected and that it's a choice to pick up most of the slack, then there's no problem, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But it feels like a lot of these people are not given, I guess, an option.
Yeah, and that's kind of shitty because I feel like, it's 2020. And although even if you don't agree that we should be splitting the household chores up or, man still a man and woman still a woman, that's fine. Like we said, if that works for you. But it seems like a lot of people wish that it didn't. So what is it?
Why is there a lack of conversation, I guess?
Yeah. So I just wonder, like, where's the mishap coming there? Where's the lack of communication? Is it you can't express to him or her that you'd like help? Or is it that they just won't do it?
Yeah, that's what I want to know too. So I like the fact that we're bringing on the husbands in this episode because I think it's different hearing it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
The perspective that we kind of brought to the first episode.
Yeah. I guess we can only speak so much for them, but I guess it's going to be interesting to hear from them. And they're here with us right now.
Yeah. Because we have 20% male listeners.
Yeah. When we saw, that's, I'm still blown away by that. But it'll be nice to hear their own reasoning. Cause I'm sure we couldn't cover all of it of why they really feel like they like help us out, I guess, or quote unquote, help us out so much.
Yeah. So for those that are here for the first time, I am Bianca and I'm a work-at-home mom to 2 little girls.
And I'm Crystal. I'm a stay-at-home mom to 2 babies.
This is a no bullshit girl talk through all things mamahood and lifestyle. This is a space where there's a place for everybody.
Cue the music. So before we get started talking on and getting into all the juicy details, let's first talk about, for anybody who knows and has been listening to the last couple episodes, Bianca's husband's been gone at OCS. So he's finally home.
Finally.
And I want to know, how has it been?
It has been amazing. I was ready to go crazy the last 3 months. I'm sure some of you guys could tell by some of the content we put out. But it's so nice being able to have, just like be a family together again and have, I guess, the family dynamic be the same as it was before. I'm not going to lie. I think we mentioned before how we talked about like the homecomings and how everyone's so different and how it almost feels like they never left.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, this one was 100 times different.
Yeah.
This one took a couple more days to kind of readjust to. And I'm not sure why. Even with, I think, Annabelle took almost like a full day to readjust. Vivian, she's daddy's girl to the core.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so nice being able to have help around the house, splitting the household chores again, and having just help in general with the kids in the house and having support when I'm working and all of that too.
And you told me right the other day that it was so nice to just be able to say, go ask your dad.
Yeah, people take that luxury for granted.
Well, let's start first things first. Let's introduce the husbands. So let's start off with introducing Ethan.
How's it going, guys? I'm Ethan. So a little bit about me. I'm from Chicago, born and raised. Joined the Marine Corps when I was 19 years old. Been a crazy career. Met my wife, I was 20 years old when I met you, probably. 20 years old, we met. Got married. We knew each other for about 6 months. Got married. Just freaking crazy. So to this day, we still talk about
love.
it. Yeah. And 10 years in the Marine Corps now. We have 2 daughters, which I'm sure you guys know all about, Annabelle and Vivian. Some of my hobbies that I enjoy doing, I enjoy drinking a lot of beer. Everyone knows that about me. I just enjoy drinking beer. Yeah. I enjoy sports, baseball, football, playing some video games when I have some time. Enjoy hanging out with the girls. They're a bunch of fun to take and explore everything with. And that's about it, guys. So I'm going to introduce my compa, a.k.a. Julio, a.k.a. July. Anyways, compa, take it.
All right. Well, let's first start out. Let's welcome back my compa. You know, it's been a long haul without you, but we're glad to have you back home. For those of you that don't know, my name's Julio. I'm Crystal's husband. I'm a nurse in the ICU.
COVID ICU.
Yeah. Whatever.
Don't mean to flex.
Wherever they send me. And, you know, did I already say I'm 30?
No.
All right. I'm 30.
30 or dirty?
Both.
Okay.
Most of my hobbies revolve around, you know, spending time with my family. But, you know, I do get away with my friends. I just picked up golfing recently. So that's, you know, it's been fun. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And I'm trying to keep my clubs from bending. But but it's getting there. You know, here we are to give our spin on things. It seems like a lot of people wanted to hear from us. So, you know, here we are to tell it all. Or, but so now we're running low on beer.
Y'all are horrible.
They have us tied up. They're serving us beer, though, so we're good.
You'll survive for at least an hour.
It's only Bud Light, though. So. Let's get some chelas.
All right, so I want to start the conversation off, and I think I'm going to ask Julio,
right.
What did you think of the first episode?
I thought it was good. I didn't. For me, it's different because I'm in it, right? So if I was a third person spectator, then I wouldn't really know exactly what goes on behind the curtains. But because I see it every day, it wasn't really a shock to me. I was like, I could see how people would think that our house would be run a different way. For us, it's always been very important to split things down the line. You know, even when we first got pregnant with Benjamin, you know, Crystal was always fighting me on, no, you know, at that point I was working night shift, so that made it more difficult. So she was always very adamant on, you're not changing a diaper, you're not, even making a diaper, even making a bottle, like they didn't want me to do anything. Even while she was still pregnant, it was, you know, kind of setting the boundaries. You're not going to do this, you're going to do that. You're working night shift, going to school.
So Crystal had the mentality early on that I guess old school mentality, right? Where it's like, you're working, so I'm going to take up all of the household chores. I need to take care of you as well as the house and the baby.
Exactly. I think part of that was for her, she was more thinking about me and not thinking about herself, thinking about, well, you know, you're going to be tired, you're going to be stressed from work and from school. But at the same time, you know, who's going to think about her if not me? You know, stress, pregnancy is stressful, and just doing things in general is stressful.
I can't.
It's stressful. It's hard. It's a more than I could ever speak on because I'll never go through it. But it takes a big toll on the body, and it really changes people. And that's not something that she was thinking about, whether she was pregnant or after birth. And you know, if I can do my part to take that weight off her, then that's what I'm going to do.
Which is funny because we just talked about this in the last episode, how some men don't really understand the toll physically it takes on a woman's body giving birth, and how they still expect a woman to take care of all the household chores and act as if they never went through this traumatic event, because
they could be real ignorant.
Giving birth is such a natural thing to do. We do it. Yeah. We see it all the time. People don't really realize what it's actually doing to your body. We just talked about this, about how we need more men like you guys who are willing to step up and actually say, you know what, like, this is traumatic. This is a lot to go through. It's not, I mean, yes, it's normal, but it's not an easy thing to go through. I need to step up and help out.
I think you hit the nail right on the head when you were saying about how, like, because you guys live it every day, it wasn't really shocking to you. So now I want to know what Ethan thought about the first episode and about people being like so up in arms, I guess, about it.
When I think about me and Bianca being a team, I think back to the day I became a father when Annabelle was born, because I don't think me and Bianca actually talked about how we're gonna split, and it was never a conversation that we had. It was never like, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna split things up. We never sat down and talked about anything, right?
Not even with like the parenting.
No,
like
up until recently, like I would say, like at least in the past year or two, did we actually sit down and start talking about like parenting challenges, which we're gonna hit in later in the episode, right? We're gonna start talking about things that we agree on and things that we disagree on, right?
I didn't even realize that until right now. We never had those hard conversations. I guess I knew what kind of man he was, and I didn't expect him to expect me to do everything. I guess.
Okay.
So it kind of was like an unsaid thing, I guess.
Yeah, so
right?
you guys are just going through like figuring it out as you
Yeah.
go along. Okay.
The first thing that comes to mind for me was when Annabelle was born. Bianca had a C-section, and I remember I was with Annabelle for her first 4 hours of her life,
we just
just
talked
by
about that,
myself.
yeah.
How she was, such a little tiny baby, and I was the first person that she trusted. I held her for the first time. I changed the first diaper. I was there when she got her first bath while Bianca was recovering in the hospital. And I think that's kind of when it all kind of hit me. It probably hit me before that, but at that point, like I knew, or maybe it was like an awakening, I guess you could say, or whatever. But it was automatic for me just to know that, you know what, it's all about these children, and we need to be a team 100% of the time. Now, mind you, we were a team even before our daughters were born, but it made it more obvious, I guess, that I need to be here for my children, and in order for be there for my girls 100% of the time, it's gonna take us being a true team the whole way, whatever it takes, So, and then from there, I mean, I guess we just learned along the way. It was never us Googling like how do we become an amazing couple.
Norm?
Yeah, like it was never that. It was us, honestly, freaking arguing a lot and us, fighting along the way, and
Going through the motions.
And figuring it out and growing. Mm-hmm. But I think the most important part was just not giving up. It was fighting for our relationship, fighting for what we wanted, and what we wanted at the end of the day was just a comfortable and happy life, and I guess we found that, and
a good
that's where
balance.
we're at now. Exactly, good balance.
So I have a question for, I guess, both of you guys, because this is something Bianca and I were talking about the last episode that I've never said it, and Bianca's never said it to me either. We just figured it out that the entire time that we were recovering in the hospital, Bianca said the same thing about you, Ethan, but about you, babe, how like you changed all the diapers, you well, I mean, I had to feed the baby, but that you pretty much did everything when we were in the hospital.
I gave them Chi-Chi too.
You know what I mean? Like how that's a time for like us to recover from, just like the huge trauma that our body just went through.
A 9-pound human
freaking come out of you,
body like that. Just think about that for a second. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
My
and to
biggest
think
probe was maybe 4 pounds.
oh my god.
It's impressive, compa.
So we were saying about how like you guys, or like for you, babe, like how you did almost everything when we were in the hospital. Actually, I just really focused on recovering as much as possible and trying to figure out like the breastfeeding thing. But I guess I want to know from both of you guys, like what went behind like thinking of that. Like you guys decided like from day one, like, oh, okay, it's not just her asking me, I'm just gonna do it.
I think a lot of that for me is between me and my youngest brother Angel. There's 10 years, so I was used to changing his diapers and making his bottles and taking care of him almost like he was my baby.
Oh, just to preface, you are the oldest of 5 to a single mom.
Yeah. Oldest of 5, single mom. We came here from Mexico when I was 8. And
so you always had that kind of like that almost like taking on that father role mentality.
Yeah, definitely. It was one of those things where you kind of have to grow up early and you have to become an adult at a young age. And doing it at the time was, there was never anything wrong with it. And taking on that role wasn't a problem because there was so much more to be done and so much more to be taken on. So for me, changing the diapers and cleaning up and doing whatever I can to help my mom at that time was, second nature. So when it came time for when my son was born and taking care of him, making sure he was fed, making sure he was clean, making sure he was comforted.
You were used to that.
Yeah, it was like I had done it before. I had to practice.
So you grew up already doing the things you're doing with Crystal, with like taking care of the household, dishes, cleaning up after yourself, and taking on like helping your mother with the household chores. Right. That was something normal for you, grew up with, right?
Yeah.
See, that's interesting because obviously that like bleeds into your marriage and how you treat women and whatnot. I feel like your situation, Ethan, was so different. So I remember talking to your mom and she had said that she always assumed that role you guys never really had to do much because she liked taking care of you guys. Like, why did it change when we got married?
I guess I live my life by a simple rule, and it's just like being a good dude. Like after, I don't know.
Words to live by. That's philosophy.
Yeah, and it truly is though.
Frame that, live it.
Because it's all about doing things for the right reason, and if you can live with your choices and, you know, execute a choice, and then on the other side of it, you can be like, you know what? Like, that's a choice that I stand by. I feel like if you just live by that, at the end of your life, you should be like, okay, you know what? I ended up doing all right. Even before we had children, I feel like I lived by that. I never did wrong by anyone. Like, yeah, along the way, maybe I got a little drunk and freaking ended up saying, you know, fuck the Broncos or whatever. You know? There's a story here or there that if you guys want to hear that story, just, you know, shout out. Along the way, you know, you make some silly choices, but I feel like at the end of the day, if you can account for your choices and just be a good dude at the end of it, I feel like you should be all right. And
okay, I have a question, right? So you guys weren't here when we were recording this, but in the last episode, we got into the whole, what we were talking about Thanksgiving, about the body counts and stuff like that, right? And we got into, it turned into a whole conversation about how Julio and I feel, because we have a son, about how you'll never catch either one of us ever praising Ben for being like a player or whatever. And we agree that Ben will learn to be a self-sufficient adult, which means he'll learn how to cook. He will learn how to clean. He will learn how to do his own laundry, right? So then we got into the conversation about how that's kind of what the problem is here, right? We force our daughters to grow up really fast, and then we baby our sons by doing everything for them. And it kind of turns them into man babies, right? So I feel like with you were never like really given, babe, like Julio, you were never given that opportunity to, like, your mom, you had to assume a role, an adult role early on very quickly, right? Your mom wasn't like letting you sleep in until like 12 while everybody else, like while Brenda only cooked and cleaned, and then she was serving you food and holding you hand and foot. You had to help, right? So that kind of like made you into a more self-sufficient adult. And I know, Ethan, you've said that like your mom kind of did everything for you, right? So what do you feel was like the switch for you to not like decide that, you know what, I don't want to have somebody wait on me hand and foot like that. I like to contribute.
Because I feel like the norm would be, if you grew up as a guy whose mom did everything for them, you would expect your wife to do the same, right? And that's just like,
that's kind of the way things are run. Yeah.
I think it all comes down to wanting to be like a good teammate, right? If you're a good teammate, you're gonna have expectations on the other side, right? So if I'm out working and I expect her to carry her side of the chores or whatever it is, it's unfair in my eyes, at least, to expect her to be home with the kids, feed the kids, hang out with the kids, take them to 2, sometimes 3 activities like a day, right? Where she's going to the park and she's doing all these things. And I see the things that she's doing with these children. And if you follow Bianca on Instagram, like, you know the things that she's doing. Yeah. There's not a day that goes by that she's not doing something with the girls.
Definitely.
And I think on like almost on a daily basis, like I'm asking her, what's your plan for the day? And I think at one point you're like, why do you always ask me what the plan for the day is? It's like, are you trying to say that I'm not going to do anything for the girls? But it's like, no, it's because I'm naturally curious. But the girls are always doing something. And I think it's so unfair for me to expect her to be like that perfect freaking housewife at home where the house is perfectly clean every day. And
not perfect?
You're perfect in my eyes, bub. But I guess not the standard, like the show we're watching. In that show, there's like a standard housewife where she's home and she cleans the house and all that. Like, I'm not going to expect that from my wife. And you know why I'm not going to expect it from her? Because she is out with the girls. She's doing all these activities. She's freaking doing all these arts and crafts with her. If they're doing arts and crafts and the glitter's all over the freaking house, am I going to come home and expect the glitter to be all picked up? No, the mess is going to be there because the girls are being busy all day freaking doing fun things. You know what I mean? That's just one simple example. At the end of the day, it's a team, right? And if we're not working together and accomplishing and raising these girls and expecting them to, you know, grow up to be sophisticated young ladies, then I feel like I'm setting my daughters up for failure.
You're setting their standards for, because when we're children, our parents are our blueprint for the way relationships work, right? And then the way the rest of the world works.
That's exactly what it is. And I never want my kids to see, ooh, daddy was mad because this wasn't done or this wasn't done. And, you know, mommy was going to take us here, but we had to get the housework done. Like, no, that's not what life is about. Yeah. And I remember specifically one day we had this conversation. You don't remember anything, so you probably don't remember. We're sitting there talking, and I asked him, because the house is a fucking disaster when he walked in. But me and the kids were out, I think, like all day that day. And I was like, does it ever bug you that the house is really dirty sometimes when you come home? Especially when, like, you know, I haven't gotten anything done, dinner's not done, nothing. And he's like, no. He's like, I actually love coming home and being able to see, like, the girls that were doing this or having a pillow fight, or it puts me at peace knowing the kids were even just out of the house all day, that you weren't even in the house. Yeah. It's like, we're both really big on getting the kids out and about. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, I prefer for them to be out than be in the house. And if that means the housework takes a backseat, then so be it. I also think that overall what I'm hearing is that the kids' childhood is more important.
Oh my God, yeah.
Than
definitely.
the housework being done on a daily basis. Like us as mothers, us being a mom is first to being a housewife or a wife in general.
Yeah.
Making sure the kids have their needs are met first, whether it be, exercise or, stimulation,
Activities,
anything. Yeah. That is priority, which I 100% agree with. I, as a mom, would much prefer to spend if I had 2 hours in a day for I had nothing to do. I'd rather take the kids on an outing than sit here and get the house cleaned.
Yeah.
And you know what? When it's time for dinner, the kids will eat. Me and Dad will pick up real quick.
Yeah.
And then we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And to add on to that, we talked about balance, right? So I think it's important to balance your life. And on that same note, I think you should balance your relationship. Like, don't worry about the house being freaking clean all the time. Like, let it be dirty.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
that's what we do. Like, let it be dirty. But also, like, there's Sundays where, you know what? All right, today's a day when we're just gonna fucking clean all day.
I mean,
And
you
we're
get to
gonna,
those
yeah, and we're gonna do laundry all day. We're gonna clean all day.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna start the week on the right note.
Yeah, but I'm not
like,
gonna come
don't
home and throw a fit about some dishes. I give two shits
Yeah.
about some dishes on the sink. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't matter. I want you guys
Absolutely.
to hang out and spend time with the kids.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
find balance and find your own balance. But I feel like we do a good job of finding our own balance or what we think balance is.
Even just 2 nights ago, the house is a mess. And usually we do power hour in the evening and we clean the house before bed. And we really wanted to watch an episode of Handmaid's Tale. And so we sat there and we're like, should we clean or should we watch the show?
Oh, we did that
We're
more than we should.
Fuck it, we'll just watch the show. We'll clean in the morning. And then in the morning we picked up. I love that we're all on the same page with that. And I'm glad that people are hearing it from your guys' mouth and your perspective, because I think that a lot of people were confused before, because what I didn't want to happen is for people to think that we were like,
Speaking for Europe, being like,
not
that's
just
what
that,
they do.
Like,
they
that's
do
what they do.
we
We
say.
got them like this, because that's not the case at all.
Because we let them know in the first episode, actually, that we had very different views in going into the marriage about we were going to be those very typical housewives, take care of the kids, clean up the poop, and how you guys were the ones.
Up the poop.
I mean,
Who's poop? My papa's poop?
My poop.
the baby's poop.
Why?
Oh, the baby.
No, front to back, not back to front.
The baby's poop.
You should have specified that one.
Anyways, I mean, you guys were the ones that really changed our minds on how we would end up really ultimately running our household.
Yeah, I talked about in the first episode. Do you
remembers
remember
everything.
when we were living in Stuart Mesa and we had just moved into that house? You would come home for lunch all the
It's a
time.
very specific memory.
No, it's very specific. It was a specific
You
day.
were wearing
Also
green
remembers
socks.
everything.
I do.
She remembers absolutely everything.
Every detail of everything.
It's
and
terrifying.
I remember, I think it was specifically like mopping the floors, and you were like, didn't you just clean the toilets with bleach yesterday? I was like, yeah. And you're like, you don't have to deep clean every day. And that Crystal, that comment blew my mind.
Yeah, because you're just like, wait, what?
I thought if I wasn't doing them, I'm supposed to be cleaning, right? Like, that's the point.
Yeah, so you earning your keep.
And
which
he's
is,
like, what are you doing? And I'm like,
it just
I felt
doesn't make any
stupid.
sense.
I was
You
like,
want to
what?
know? Okay, so now I have a question. Like we said, we're posing questions here. I have a question on what you guys think about the old school way of doing things, essentially, right? Like the way we all know, we're all from the same background.
Where
So
the
what do
man
you
makes
think?
the money, the woman cooks, the woman cleans,
she takes
then
care
the
of them kids.
man does not lift a finger, kind of.
There's a lot of perspective there, but it's very one way. It's very one person's way of thinking. And when it comes to teamwork, you can't think that way. You can't just think about well, I need this. I worked and I come home and I'm tired and that's it. I'm done. It just doesn't make sense. Are you done being human? Are you done being that? Are you done with what?
What are you done with? Life's still going on.
I'm just gonna sit here and drain away watching whatever's on TV.
I know. I think it's not even an American dream. I think it's more of the machismo part of our culture.
Yeah.
That says wife maintains the household, you bring home the bacon, and therefore I don't lift a finger.
Do you think this is culturally based? Because we had this conversation before, and you think about those movies, right? And from the 20s, 40s, 50s, 60s even, and no matter what race it was, everybody, the wife was cooking with the pie in her hand and she's sweeping, she's done up. But I feel like specifically in our culture, we haven't made as much improvement with that mentality. Because
exactly.
Not as progressive.
Yeah, because, okay, for example, we were getting a lot of feedback on our Instagram about all of this stuff. And obviously we're looking into it and trying to get more like information about it. A lot of these people who are saying that no, they wish, there wasn't could help out, or the people we heard that were like, I can't believe that Crystal and Bianca don't, do more around the house or whatever. Most of them were Hispanic, right? So do you think
that's what it was?
It was, right?
People were really shocked that we weren't like really, really traditional housewives.
I don't think it's not so much that you guys don't do more around the house. But because you don't prioritize cleaning doesn't mean you don't clean. Like we don't come home and it's a mess either. I think people are painting the wrong picture here.
No, I mean, no. He's laughing because it's the fucking truth though. Because my wife, 100%. Like I'd even say more than 50% of the freaking like times I come home, it's freaking spotless. Yeah. Sometimes it's not picked up, but it's still freaking clean. Like I'm not saying that they don't do anything either. That might be like
it's like a few cars here out of place, but it's not like dirty.
Yeah, like then they still cook and they still clean and they still do everything. But guess what? I still cook and I still clean. And that's the idea though, is that she's happy with what she's accomplishing in the household. And guess what? So am I. Because at the end of the day, as long as I'm happy with my input and she's happy with her input, that means we're both happy in the relationship, right?
Exactly.
Do you guys, this is for both of you guys, I guess. Like, do you guys feel, specifically you two, actually, Bianca and Ethan.
Damn, call me out.
You guys have been married, 8 years now? Going on 9 years?
Almost 10.
Oh my God, you guys been together
8.5 years.
Yeah, you guys been together for
9 years.
Well,
get it together.
Know your facts.
Brush your teeth.
Wipe your booty.
No, that's from the Trolls movie.
Just saying whatever. My girl's just saying whatever now.
I thought we were talking about wiping butts earlier, so.
Wow. Drink your beer.
So nobody wipes butts anymore?
You're disgusting.
Just say whatever. Put on your hat. Just keep going.
So I wanted to know if, because you guys have been married for quite some time now, do you feel like because you guys share roles pretty evenly, or you guys give 100, right? It's not 50-50. Do you feel like that's I don't want to say the secret, but the reason why you guys would say you guys are still really happily married?
I would say, it's all dependent. I feel like you guys hit it. In your first episode, right? It's all dependent on your own happiness, right? In our lives and in our specific relationship, we're happy, right? And it's only because we just talked about it today about
I think it's because we're both comfortable with the amount of responsibility we're both giving. So, for example, I don't think that we've been married this long and our relationship's been, great because we split household chores.
No,
I think we're happy and we've been okay and we've done, have a good relationship because our expectations of each other, and we feel like we're each being taken care of.
That's what I mean. In this case, for you guys, right? Being, like you said, 100, splitting the chores, splitting the kids, helping out each other where, like you said, picking up where one leaves off. It, I feel like it helps with burnout, right? Feeling underappreciated. It's so easy to, if you came home every day from work and you were like, well, you know what? I work 12 hours to stay on my feet. I'm not lifting a finger. Is dinner ready? And you did that every day to me. I would feel so unappreciated and so burnt out that I feel like that would obviously leak into problems in the marriage. Do you feel like because you relieve each other that it's the reason why, or you guys feel appreciated, you feel taken care of, that's the reason why maybe you guys have gone on for so long?
Yeah, I think it's one conversation that I told Bianca at the time. I told my compa today when we were chilling at I don't do very good at doing something consistently. So it's when I'm able to go work and just focus on work, and even unfortunately I deploy every now and then. I go to OCS for every now and then, and I go over there and I put 100% effort at my training or whatever, and then guess what? I'm able to come home and then I put 100% effort on my girls and being a father and being a wife. You're a
great wife, compa.
Being there for my wife.
But you're also a great wife.
He's a great wife.
100% effort on being a father and being a husband and being there for my wife. Again, I just enjoy it. You know what I mean? Now, don't get me wrong. I feel like sometimes whenever I have too much leave, I lose my mind because I'm just freaking home all the time. So again, it's just a happy balance. It is what it is.
You've said that before. You're I love my kids, but damn, I could not stay home with them all day.
And it's kind of the same thing.
And that's the thing it's people don't really think about this is really one of those things where you really have to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Do you think your job is so as the father, do you think your job is so easy? It doesn't matter what you do, that your wife can do it. She'll go home, she'll go to work, she'll go work 9 to 5 or 12 hours or 16s or whatever you work, and then come home and then she's done, and then you're still picking up the slack and doing everything. Versus if I was to stay home with the kids 24/7 and I'm cooking, cleaning, taking them out on outings, That's fucking hard.
Yeah, and I've done those days.
Yeah.
I've done those days.
human.
I've done those days with the girls where I take them for three. I took them a whole weekend a couple times.
Yeah.
Where I'm in charge of the girls. Their breakfast, lunch, dinner, taking them on outings, getting them changed, wiping their freaking asses, right, changing their diapers, and doing like I was in charge of. And I think that may be why I appreciate my wife so much because I was able to experience those freaking days and weekends where
it's
goddamn,
nonstop when no one comes to relieve you.
they're a pain in the freaking ass, and I love my girls, but it's okay to say they're
Yeah, don't get me wrong.
Raising
They
humans
are.
is hard.
Yeah,
You
don't get
gotta
me
raise
wrong.
them.
I'll do my part and I'll take them and I'll do whatever I can. I'll gladly take them all like for the day and do it all on my own. But 24/7, guys,
Like
man,
you
it's
couldn't, like you couldn't imagine doing that where you're all day going nonstop with the kids. Because when you're with the kids all day, it literally is nonstop, right?
Yeah.
And then still expecting me to. Actually, I feel bad now because there's some days where I like shoot a wedding and he'll have the kids all day, and I'm that husband who just like I'm done. Hey, I feel bad now. I'm the worst
But you do it like way more of the time. Shooting a wedding, like that's only once in a while.
Yeah, but with that being said, I
We all need
also
a break.
like we've talked about how over the past 8 years we've been married. Guess what? I've been deployed 3 or 4 of those years.
You owe me a couple.
So
I feel like, you know what, too? It's like, I feel like I know you've expressed this to me, Julio, that when you'll have those stretches of days off where you're home with us for a long period, like you're about to be 5 days home with us.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, Benjamin's like going through a big developmental leap right now when he first started with the tantrums. And I was telling you how I would like to ideally like work through it.
Yeah.
You would get frustrated. Like you'd be like a week home and you'd be like, damn, dude, like, okay, enough. I already told you. And you've turned to me like, I don't know how you're so patient. How do you not lose your fucking mind? And I'm like, it takes practice.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's
now
building patience. It's especially with you dealing with him every day. You get used to it and you build up that patience. But you know, I see him when I leave to work before, like you said in another episode. I leave to work before they wake up, come back after they're asleep, so I don't get to experience much of what they're doing, except for
You experience
like
the fun parts.
yeah, except for
Yeah.
you know they wake up here and there and then eat something and you know that anyone can do that.
So I have a question now for both of you guys, because Chris and I are obviously already answered this question. There was a Facebook post that went viral that Chris and I talked about, and it basically asked, who do you serve first? And it was talking to a woman, but I want to get your take on it still.
Okay.
Do you serve your husband first, or do you serve your kids first? What would you like? What would you expect at the dinner table? Would you be expected to be served first, or your kids?
I would expect for the kids to be served first.
Why?
Well, for one basic like human need, they don't know that they need to wait for food. They just know that they're hungry and they need to be fed. They don't know you're cooking the food. They don't know the food's being served. They don't know it's too hot. You need to wait for it to cool down.
Our kids are still really small.
They don't know any of that. So there's just like, okay,
The
I'm hungry. I need to be
impatience.
fed now. Yeah, exactly. They're babies. So for one, like that's like the main thing. That's the main thing that comes into effect.
Yeah.
It's like they have needs that need to be met. Like, you know, I'm a grown ass man. Like if I need to go to the bathroom, I
Exactly.
can hold it. If I'm hungry, I can wait for food. It's not fair for me to be like, well, you know, I'm the man in the house. I need to be fed first. No, that's outrageous.
No, I get what you're saying. Like, our kids are still really small. Like, Bianca's kids are older, so she can tell them right now, like, hey, still cooking dinner, 5 more minutes, like, until dinner time. It's interesting. I've never heard you actually say that about the kids being served first.
Yeah, but I think even if they were older, I don't care if they're like 21, 22, whatever. Like I would still want my kids to be served.
Yeah, it's your
to be served
babies,
first.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I want to give them everything, and obviously food and shelter and everything comes at the top of the list. So yeah, I am going to be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to take care of you first before I take care of myself, because I'm not going to just be like me. Like I worked all day. Give me food. Give me whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so the kids are served.
Yeah.
Who's served next?
You.
Okay, but if I'm serving.
It's still you.
Yeah, that's true. I was telling him about how we like tend to like, I'll like, okay, I'm serving food.
I've seen y'all do that.
Yeah, you go get drinks and
It
like
gets
let's go sit
annoying.
down.
They're like, no, you, honey. No, you, honey.
And then you go la, 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 and then make out.
Okay, so question to you, Ethan, about the Facebook post.
Send it. For me, right? The way I look at it is that I'm probably gonna need another beer, so I'm gonna get up anyways.
Hey guys, send help. We need more beer.
Yeah. So no, but like I'm being 100% honest here. I'm already gonna be up, getting another beer probably. So I'm gonna feed the girls like they're sitting there. Of course, it's all about being a good teammate, right? Like, let's feed the girls so they eat, because both our girls enjoy eating, and we know it's gonna take up 15 to 20 minutes of their freaking little lives of eating dinner.
Yeah, they take forever.
Like, yeah. So let them sit down, let them eat, and then that way we can enjoy our dinner. And guess what? I'm already up serving the girls, so why wouldn't I serve my wife? Like it's obvious. It's not like it's not something that I stand there and like contemplate and I'm like, man, you know what? I really should serve my wife first. No, it's just being a good dude again. Like it's my wife. Why wouldn't I serve my wife? Why wouldn't I grab her?
Here, it's not like you're over here starving. Like, oh, I need to eat fucking now, or I'm gonna collapse. Like, no, I'm not. I'm a grown ass man. I'm in no rush to eat.
Yeah,
I can wait.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like normally what we do is we serve the kids first, and then you'll get the drinks, I get the food. We sit down together as a team, as a family. It's not you get served first because you make more money than I do. Like, it's fucking dumb. I hate that.
You're older, or your shoes are bigger.
Yeah, like, come on. Like, we all just want to eat.
We were talking about how, like, okay, so for like instance, right? Like, I feel like on the first episode when we were covering this, we were definitely talking about how you guys have spoiled us in the sense of like helping us out with the kids and helping around the house, quote unquote, that now you can't go back because now I can't live any other way. But like, I want you like,
Don't speak too soon. I mean, you never know.
But that's what I want you to talk about, because I feel like it's important for certain people to hear this, that I know you've always told me about what you've said about me helping you, quote unquote, or you helping me, quote unquote, with the kids, about what your response always was to that, especially in the beginning when we...
I think for me, what's been a struggle for me is I'm not the help, you know. I'm not here to help you or make your life easier. I know that sounds harsh, but I am in this as much as you are. These are my kids as much as they're yours. Yeah. And if I'm gonna watch them and I'm gonna bathe them, I'm gonna feed them, I'm gonna take care of them, give them whatever they need. Or I'm not here to just like, okay, I'm gonna keep them alive so you can get a little break. Like, no, I'm here to enjoy my kids. I'm here to watch them,
to parent
through
them,
their milestones. I'm here to watch them play. I'm here to play with them. I'm here to see what they're doing, what they're up to, what they enjoy, and what they don't.
I think Crystal said it the first episode too, that even though you're at work, it doesn't mean you're not a dad. Just like, you know, if I'm working, doesn't mean I'm not a mom. I'm a mom day in and day out. Mm-hmm. And when I'm with my kids, I'm a mom, just like you. You're at work, but then when you're home, you're a dad. I mean, it's just the way it is. You're not helping, you're not babysitting. It's just your responsibility as a parent.
Yeah.
It's not something that's like a luxury to us. It's basic human. You helped create these humans. You're going to help raise them.
Yeah,
of course.
Exactly.
And even then, if I'm sure my compa would agree here, of course, I'm still a dad. I'm still available. I'm still going to be there for my wife or for my kids. If she needs something or if they need something, I'm not just going to be like, nope, I'm at work to bond to me.
Yeah, that
which is a luxury not everyone can afford.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I want to know, just a juicy question here. Juicy question. I already kind of know the answer.
Juicy.
I know the answer, I think, from your mom, because I feel like I know her pretty well, is growing up in a very traditional Mexican household, specifically because you're Mexican, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how would maybe some of your family members or how would your mom feel about you taking a more progressive role in our house?
Honestly, I think... Oh, man, that question is so loaded.
I'll take it. I'll try taking it. So earlier, I wasn't able to talk about the culturally based, how I feel about that. But so I have a different perspective. I don't think I never told you about this, really. But so I was raised by my stepfather. My father's still in my life. He's seen our children, and he's came over here to San Diego, and we enjoy his company very much. But I was raised by my stepfather, Fernando. Mm-hmm. But they had a company growing up, and that's how I was raised. They raised a company by themselves. My mom, Christina, and my stepfather, Fernando, they raised the whole company from the ground up, basically. That's awesome. Unfortunately, they lost their company in 2007 when the market crashed because there was construction.
Everybody lost everything.
So they lost their company, they lost their house, so be it, right? But I never thought about this until now. They were a team in that company. They worked as a team together in that company. And guess what? That meant that my mom would be coming home at the same time that the father would be coming home. Mm-hmm. And guess what? They'd come home and they'd have to feed the children. And guess what? They'd do it together. It wouldn't be the dad is coming home, sitting down and having a beer. It'd be both of them would be like, you know what? We need to feed the children because they're at home. Yeah. And so I never thought about that to know, but that's the way it worked, because my mom would always be there translating, one for Fernando for the company, but she'd also be getting the materials, and she would be working just as hard as my dad was.
Yeah, she's earning her paycheck.
And at the end of the day, Fernando is my dad. I say my dad, but I have two dads. I'm lucky enough to have two dads.
And you know what I find interesting about that too is, like you said, they both grew that company together and they were a teammate, but when they lost it, They went down together. It wasn't one. They were truly a team from the beginning through the good and the bad, like literally through the good and the bad.
It's funny. See, then that tells me that, like deep down in your subconscious, that's exactly what you saw growing up with like being fed at the same time, which probably made it a little bit easier for you to transition into like taking a more progressive role in your house about I'm helping with the household chores. I'm helping with the kids. I'm going to feed these kids. Versus like, I know plenty of people whose husbands or boyfriends or whatever grew up very old school where their mom stayed home, their dad went to work, and their sisters had to grow up, but the boys were babied. So they have a really hard time with the men now, getting them to do anything basically. Yeah. Like they just don't understand not being taken care of.
Yeah. And then with all that being said is that like to this day, like Bianca can even say like, my family's still very traditional Mexican, but even with that being said, like it's still just because like the dad isn't coming home and being catered to, they're still very much traditional Mexican family.
So I think for my mom, I don't think she would think of what I'm doing now or wouldn't really think that it's progressive. I think it's different because even though we were like a traditional Mexican household, it also wasn't so traditional because it was a single mom household, you know, trying to raise all of us and take care of us.
That is very important to know. Yeah. Yep.
So with that being said, I almost feel like, you know, with my mom not having anyone to lean on, like I was the one that had to step up and I was the one that she leaned on. And it's almost like, I haven't really thought about it until now, but it's almost like I'm the one that got the practice in for like marriage and for what? Fatherhood. For what I would have wanted for my mom. It's almost like I'm doing for my wife what I would have wanted someone to step up and do for my mom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
like
I
feel
love
like,
that.
Yeah, if you would have had somebody come into your mom's life as a possible father figure, you would have expected nothing less than. Because I know like, you've seen your mom work really hard.
Yeah, like she's done so much and she did a lot. You know, it's 5 of us, single mom, no papers, no English, nothing.
I'll shoot you with a challenging question there though, compa, because I read this post the other day and it said like there's this guy that was raised by an alcoholic, two brothers raised by an alcoholic, right? And one brother was like, I decided to become an alcoholic because that's what I was raised to see. And then the other brother was like, I decided not to be an alcoholic because that's not what I wanted to grow up to be. Yeah. So what led you in the direction to end up being that good father? Because at the end of the day, you have no example, right?
Yeah,
so
you could have
easily been an asshole and not been a good father.
Like, so no one came and helped me.
Exactly. So why be the father you are today?
Okay, and that's the thing. Especially, it wasn't so much growing up in a single household, but also the area that we grew up in, we could have easily like fallen into drugs, gangs, you name it. It was what I didn't want for my brothers and didn't want for my life moving forward. I could have easily like slipped into that and been like, well, you know, I'm in drugs or I'm in gangs or I'm in this because I had
use that as an
life.
excuse.
Use it as not even an excuse. Use it as a crutch to be like, you know, this is what I'm going to do because of that. It's like, no, it gives you so much more to overcome, but so much more to like supersede and feel proud of because you didn't fall into that. You didn't go take the easy route. A lot of it for me, especially growing up without a dad, is trying to do everything that I would want to do, especially as clean as possible, is like an important thing for my son to see. To be like, you know, you can do it without having to do all this. You don't have to lean on, you know, bad circumstances as a crutch to be like, oh, well, you know, I would have done good, but I didn't have these opportunities.
Yeah. You know what? I feel like so much. I'm sorry, baby. I don't mean to cut you off, but like, I feel like so much of the way you parent our children, and really specifically our son in this case, because Camila's still really small, is you do things that you wish you would have had if you would have had a dad. The way you would have your dad. You wish your dad would have done.
I feel like that's the basis of almost every.
The way you parent, if you decide to parent. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, if you decide not to take the easy way out, though, right?
Exactly.
So there's 2 routes you can take. You can either decide to, you know what, let me give my children everything I didn't have, or let me decide to, you know, just continue the patterns that I've already lived in.
Exactly. Yeah. And we were talking about that actually earlier about how when it came to changing the way we parent, right? About how sometimes especially when you're with your oldest, right? Because every new step is something new you learn with your oldest child, because with the second one, you already know with the first one, right?
Yeah.
And so you're learning as new parents how to parent. You don't know what you want or ultimately how your kids are going to end up. So the first thing you always want to do is revert back to, when you don't know what to do, you revert back to what you know, right? And deciding, what you're familiar with. I feel like deciding to take that leap of the unfamiliar is the first step towards something really great.
And then even then adding on to it, you know, as a single parent, you could only do so much. You always want more for your kids, even if you don't know how to get them there. But now, getting here now, and being educated and doing all that, now you can see what it takes to get your kids there, instead of just like, Mijo, I don't know what it is to take it there. I just know you need an education, so pursue that and get there. Mm-hmm. I want more for you. But now, as an adult, you can give your kids more because you follow the right path.
Yeah, I think that's smart. I think you'd be giving your kids a disservice if you didn't take what you learned from your childhood and then shape that and do things the way you want them to be done, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we touched about this a little bit before, but I have a question for you, Ethan, right?
Send it.
So I don't work. I know when, just a backstory, when I was working and I had decided to be a stay-at-home mom, you were like, Julio was totally cool from the get. And we touched on it a little bit about how I've decided being a mom is basically my calling right now, right? And Bianca's the opposite. Bianca loves being a mom. That's totally a thing. But Bianca loves her side hustle. She loves that like challenge, right? She loves to challenge herself. But if she decided, right, because you guys will be moving in a couple of years because the military is going to take you a lot of other places. If Bianca ever decided, you know what, like I kind of just done working, I kind of just want to focus on the girls. I don't want to bring in an extra income. Like, would you be cool with that? Are you okay with picking up the full like burden of the bills essentially? Or like, I know like the way it is now, it's mostly still just fun money, but you know what I mean? Like if she decided I'm done with that, I will be bringing in no income now because I kind of just want to be with the girls. What would be your response to that?
My response would be I support it.
Yeah, that's
simple
awesome.
as that. Like there is no question about it. I will not question my wife's. I won't. There's no way I would question my wife's decisions because I trust where her mind's at, and I trust her as a mother, and I trust her. I know that no matter what she chooses, she's going to choose what's best for our daughters. And you know what? It might be that she might think that Annabelle needs more time reading, or it might be that she thinks that Annabelle needs more time being taught, whatever she's
her
backed
numbers
up on, or whatever
stuff,
it is, right? I know without a doubt that my wife will choose the best decision for the girls, and it's as simple as that. Because at the end of the day, we know that the decisions we make right now benefit the girls. It doesn't benefit me.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
What I mean? I don't. As long as
I know
as
this
long
whole
as I have
GI
food on the
Bill
table,
thing
yeah,
and
exactly.
stuff. You guys are like all about the girls.
Every decision we make in our lives is for our children, and I know for a fact that if Bianca wants to stop working, I know it's going to benefit our children, and I'll trust her in that decision 100%.
Interesting you say that. Okay, because that's going to bring us into our tea time.
Okay, Crystal and Julio, I have a question for you for tea time.
All right, let's do it.
Has there ever been a scenario when it comes in terms of parenting where you guys completely disagreed?
Okay, so we're going to preface this because we just found this out, right? We just talked about this. When we first had Ben, you were working night shift, right? So you worked from about 7 o'clock to 7:30 in the morning. You got home by like 8 o'clock. And we worked it out so that way we'd pay minimal childcare. So you used to come off from your night shift and then by 8 o'clock you were home, you take the baby from me, and then you'd watch him until I got off of work at 5.
Yeah.
I don't know how the fuck you did it now that I'm thinking about it. That's kind of a lot, but especially with our newborn. But co-sleeping, you were saying now, I did not know this because what the fuck? You're saying now that you would have not preferred to co-sleep?
I think that's like a double-pronged approach where part of it was just it was easier to co-sleep with him because I was coming home and I was tired and I wanted to sleep with him. On top of like, he's our firstborn and he's our baby and he's my son, and I want to just cuddle him and sleep with him. But yeah, definitely. I mean, if we could have kept him in his crib and just kept him like sleeping on his own, like the way Camila's doing, it would have been easier on us because then we wouldn't have to work our sleep around his, and like when it's time for him to go to sleep, everyone has to go to sleep.
Yeah. Remember for a while that we could not have him go to sleep. Okay, that makes sense. Interesting. Okay, so I feel a little different. I didn't know that you felt that way. It just so happened to be that it worked out that we had to co-sleep because if not, you weren't sleeping.
But that's the thing, though. It's if I was working day shift, he would have gotten the boot. You don't get it. Working night shift is so fucking hard. you especially if you're trying to fight it,
Yeah.
you're working 3 days night shift, waking up, trying to watch them and trying to sleep. I wasn't sleeping 12 hours while you were off at work and trying to sleep with him. Like he wasn't sleeping that whole time. It's so difficult craving sleep and just craving that, just like it's so basic and so raw that you just, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
It's primal. You need it. Yeah. You need to survive.
Exactly. It's primal. Working day shift now, I don't know why or how I ever did night shift.
You did night shift for like 2 years too.
It
Okay,
sucked.
interesting. I know. Still, sometimes to this day, it still mind blows me that you used to come off your night shift and then watch him for 8 hours while I was at work. Whatever. The point is, I always thought that like because he's Ben and I would have loved to co-sleep with him no matter what. I didn't realize like you would have fought me on it.
Okay, so with that being said, let's say in the scenario, because we're talking about how do you co-parent when you have different views. Let's say that Crystal was adamant on co-sleeping. Crystal was like, I really want to co-sleep with Ben. You weren't working the night shift and you were adamant about not co-sleeping with Ben. How do you handle it? Yeah. Go!
So we do the 1 to 10 approach. We basically present our arguments of why we think it, I would probably say like the benefits to it. You probably explain like the whole, whatever. But we do the 1 to 10 because I've told them that on the first episode about how we have to be adults, right? It kind of sucks, but you have to be an adult about how important is this to you, and whoever has a higher number essentially
you can't
wins.
just say 10 every time and expect to win.
Yeah. Okay. But okay, so on a scale from 1 to 10, let's do it right now. Bianca will say 3, and then we'll say the number for the co-sleeping.
I'm going to count to 3, but with my fingers.
Okay. How important is for me to co-sleep and you not? 7. Oh!
Okay, so it's both the
tiebreaker.
7. What now?
Both the 7. Okay, so...
Tiebreaker, let's do it again.
Okay, so in this case, I feel like we just probably have to discuss it until we couldn't discuss it anymore. And then we probably do a trial and run, like a trial and error thing.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think for me, I would have folded just because of the same things that I said. Like not even working night shift. It was more of like, he's like so chunky and so adorable.
Our baby was fat.
He's a good fucking cuddler. Like
Yeah.
Camila, she doesn't give a shit. She was like, no, leave me alone, put me down, put me to sleep, I'm done.
Yeah, exactly.
But him from the beginning, he was like always like willing to cuddle, always wanted to be held.
I know, and he was just, our baby was so fat,
Like,
man.
Honestly, even if I would have opposed it, even if like, say for example, I would say 9, you'd say 7, but he needs us to fall asleep, then what are we going to do? Let him cry out the whole night while we sleep?
Well, I mean, we got him into that habit, right? Like, because Camila doesn't do that. So, okay. And another thing touching on that before we turn the mics over to them is I feel like when it comes to how we handle...
Them, like...
Those people. I think a big thing on how we handle not being able to have the same approach to parenting, and when we may like not have the same views, is I know that I can say for both of us, we can both be swayed with a well-presented argument, and we're both willing to try things. So Julio and I started off when we were first pregnant with Ben before we had him. Very, very adamant that we're just going to raise him the way we know to raise him, which is the way we were raised, right? Mm-hmm. He's going to get spanked. Like, it is what it is, get over it, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't until like I started diving deep into research and reading about children and taking that one class that I told you about, which made me like really open up my mind. Going to therapy too, where we decided we want to do a different approach. So every time I've approached you about taking a different path with Ben in our parenting, I know you've always been willing to listen, and you've like when you push back, you'll tell me. Like I remember when I told you I pretty much want to go no spanking unless it's something super serious, where he needs to learn that he's reached like the limit. But we both agreed that we would reserve it for something very, 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 very serious.
Yeah, it's still not completely off the table.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like we got some pushback. We had to come to a compromise on that about the way we wanted to parent, because I know you have a much more black and white. You're a little bit, I guess, tougher than I am.
Oh yeah, for us it was like my mom came home from work, and if like it doesn't matter who did it. Like if Gonzo's the one that fucked up, we all got fucking spanked.
Just one for every single one of you, gonna make sure she covered everybody,
so,
right?
Yeah, so it was like we got spanked, we all got spanked. So it's not anything new.
Yeah, I feel like even like what I was telling, we talked about in the last podcast about like the validating emotions, about how it sounds so kumbaya, but it really isn't when you break it down to what it is. And I remember even when I first presented it to you, you were just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
My kid is not going to be one of those freaking kids throwing his like bag in the dugout because he's throwing a fit. I'm like, no, that's not what it is.
Yeah.
And when I presented like the research to you and told you about what I read, you trusted my instincts as a mom saying this is the better approach. Yeah. I feel like for what we want for our kids.
Yeah, definitely. Or even the example that you gave me of like if when kids are getting spanked, you can even compare that to an adult. An adult is driving down the speedway and then you see a cop and you're speeding, you know you're over the limit. Like your stress and your anxiety are going to go through the roof and you know it's going to be bad. You know, say the cop pulls you over, you get the ticket, and you know that is worst case scenario, which for a child would be getting spanked. Then okay, now you've gotten a ticket and now you keep driving. You're like, oh, okay, well, you know that wasn't so bad. Now I can keep driving. I can keep doing whatever. You know, the I already got pulled over. I already got a ticket.
Yeah. Even worse is if your kid's driving way past the speed limit, right? And then he sees a cop, he slows down, but when the cop is out of sight, he continues to speed. You've not solved the problem, the underlying problem. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're not wired to until we teach them, right? I feel like Bianca and I had touched about that a little bit, about how for us, I know I had told Bianca about how like for us as parents, our biggest goal is we have like a list of what we want our kids to be. And nowhere on the list does it ever say anything about like wanting them to be doctors, lawyers, astronauts. It's about, you know, we want to raise kids who have good integrity, who have good character, who are trustworthy and honest and kind, and above anything else are not afraid of hard work.
Yeah.
And it
doesn't matter where that work is coming from.
Exactly. It doesn't matter whether that's a work to be a teacher, to be a fireman, to be whatever. You need to not be afraid. These kids are so loud. You need to not be afraid of hard work.
It doesn't matter if it's manual labor or
or
computers or anything. You need to be able to step up and do it.
Yeah, exactly. But you can do that and you could teach that without beating the shit out of them.
Without hitting them upside the head every time.
These kids. All right. So now we're going to pose the question to those people. All right. So question posed and we spin it to you guys.
By the way, guys, sorry if you hear the kids in the background. This is just for life.
Yeah. How do you handle different parenting views with your spouse?
So this is actually very interesting because we just had a full-blown, not argument, but discussion about this. So Ethan and I have always really pretty much been on the same page as far as parenting goes. There's been very, very little, if anything, that we've disagreed on. Correct me if I'm...
Yeah, no, about right.
She's holding up the chancla.
There's a gun to my head. Send help. Bring IPAs. No, so what happened was, I guess it started before I went to OCS. I told Bianca to watch this documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma.
A lot of people have been watching it.
Yeah, it's a good one, right? It talks about social media and how it impacts young minds, basically, right? And it's kind of the future that we're living in, right?
Yes.
So, talk to Bianca, and it came down to...
the conversation got started because Annabelle has been asking for a phone. Obviously, she's 5. I'm not going to get her a freaking phone.
She said she was.
I was not.
No,
oh my God, don't even.
She's the bad person here.
But the conversation shifted when I was like, yeah, not until she's what, like 14, 15? And Ethan like lost it with me. He was like, wait, what?
And by lost it, like I grabbed plates and threw them and I broke, and then the whole house was flipped. Cops were called. Dogs were at the house, guys. It was crazy. No, I'm just kidding.
Why are you so dramatic?
Might as well.
He did not. He strongly disagreed with the fact that I wanted to get her a phone at 14, 15. Now, I think 14, 15 is a great age to have your first phone. Maybe even earlier. Earlier, it would not be a smartphone. It would just be solely for communication purposes. But 14, 15 is like, you know, teenagers, high school years. For your freshman in high school at that point, like, obviously they're going to want a phone. Ethan strongly disagrees.
Yeah, so my point on the whole thing is I don't think that a teenage girl needs access to social media. Like, what's the point of it, right? In my eyes, it's purely entertainment, right? Like, it's exposing your child to means to communicate with the outside world that's unnecessary. Like, everyone that wants and needs to make an impact on my daughter's life can make it in person. And I feel like giving them the means to communicate with them via social media is just unnecessary. Because one, I don't know who these people are. There is no way I'll be able to communicate with all these people and filter these people that are having an impact on my child's life if it's through social media. Now, I am able to impact the people that are going to be making an impact on their life in person.
No, and I disagree with that because you will not have access to every single person she has access to at school or anything. There's people at school that are going to be able to make an impact on your daughter that you don't have control of. And so that right away debunks that argument. Here's the thing. I agree what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. And you make valid points. However, we also cannot deprive our kids of that social aspect. That's just a part of life at this point. And it's going to get worse by the time they get to high school. Now, I understand your point. I think you understand some of my
I do, but again, I just don't agree with it.
And that's fine. I don't agree with your way of thinking either. And that's okay. But the point of this is not how do we settle this? Because this is something that's going to probably be a fight in our house for a while. How do we come to a conclusion?
The way I look at it is that we continue to gather our experience and our knowledge, and with time, we make a decision together. It's not about solving it now.
Yeah.
That's what we said. It's like, you know what? With time, with experience, and with development of fucking technology, like Instagram and Facebook is not going to be the same way it is now in a decade. Let's be honest.
I think that the important thing here is not so much the argument. It's not so much the argument, right? It's not so much that we disagree, and it's not bad that we disagree. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that the main point is making sure I'm understanding your point. You're understanding mine, whether you agree with it or not. At the end of the day, we both want our kids to be safe, and I want our kids to have a happy life, right? That's the goal, right? For our kids to be fulfilled. I want them to have a fun social life, which unfortunately can include social media. You want them to be safe. At the end of the day, we're always looking out for our kids, right? And we will make a decision later on based off of that. I think a lot will depend on the type of kids.
With all that being said, yes, but let's just vote that Ethan won the argument.
No.
Go.
If we tell them that they can't do something, it's something that, and something like this that is so common nowadays, they're going to do it anyways.
So I'd rather have access to it than you hide it from me.
Here, I understand you're being protective, and I understand Ethan also is a little bit weirder with social media and stuff, so I understand where you're coming from. But we also need to, I don't want to like seclude our kids either and then be those girls who have
Hathawayville.
So what Bianca doesn't understand is that I'm just attacking this from the, what's it called? Like the way to bargain. I'm just attacking really low, and then we'll meet at the middle ground. That's gonna end up meeting my expectations.
Which is what you really wanted.
Exactly, right? So
I hate you.
Husbands, take note.
Ew, do not take note.
The levels.
Listen, at the end of the day, I think you're going to have to be realistic. I'm going to have to be realistic. I think I'm being very realistic. I think you're being unrealistic. But we will come. Don't wink at me like that. You know, that's my weakness.
He's winking at me.
That's fucking
So with 1 week, I turned down my compa and my wife.
It's a powerful week.
It's a powerful week.
Anyways, God, we're
y'all.
horrible.
Well, to wrap this up, when Annabelle turns 15, it will remain to be seen.
To be continued.
TBD. Well, you guys, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this special episode with the husbands on here. I know we liked having them on here. Just to gain a little bit, the male perspective for our first episode.
And for the guys that are listening, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Feel free to message us on our Instagram at messybunscoffeeruns or email us at mbcrpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode, and we can't wait to kick off the new year with you guys next week when we release our family goals episode.
Thanks for listening, guys. It was just a pleasure to be here and talk about my perspective. And as always, it's a joy to be here with my compa.
Yeah, compa segment will return. So, put in your requests.